Hi, everybody. It's Linda G and our favorite psychic,
Hello, good morning, everybody, and good
Sterling.
morning.
Uh, your YouTube is called Sterling
Sterling Psychic Medium.
Sterling Psychic Medium, and we have not seen him in how many weeks?
A little over a month out of his
Yeah, because
5 weeks or something. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
went to New York, but now we're back on track, you guys,
Back
and
on schedule. Yeah.
right, we're back on schedule. Okay, so we got the questions. Thank you to Dan and to Linda.
Exactly. Yeah, they put a lot of work into all that.
They
Lots of
do.
sorting back and forth, lots of phone calls, and get it all
They
straight. Yeah.
get it all sorted, you guys.
Mhm.
So, okay, I'm surprised how many questions come in. They still come in. People still
Mhm.
need to know, like the famous Pride and Prejudice. I need to know. I need to be involved in the conversation. Okay, you probably don't know who I'm talking about. Okay, some psychics have predicted a global economic crash in late October, early December, orchestrated by Putin, Saudi Arabia, and Republicans. What do your guides say?
Not a crash, and not a crash like we've seen in prior history, like in 2008. But there's a lot of levers. The world economy is being controlled by a number of levers. Things like the pandemic, things like the war, Russia, Ukraine, gas availability, fuel availability, supply chain. So all these levers are working across all the global economies. So it's going to create a lot of cycles, a lot of some deep cycles, some big cycles. But I see a lot of that kind of leveling out as we get through the next 12 months. So, we're going to go through a lot of cycles, but not a crash. I don't see a crash. And by the way, I have had a lot of people approach our channel, and I think Linda mentioned that somebody is saying there's going to be a big crash out there. They're telling a lot of people. So I'm here to tell
Are
you
they
it's not
psychic or is this someone involved in the business?
no, I don't think it's on the business side. I think it's in some other side. I don't have all the details, but somebody's spreading fear because a lot of people are asking the question. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? When it doesn't happen, then but we can't, to each his own. If they want to say that and you want to believe it, believe it.
Yeah. I just anyway, we've got much better controls on the economy right now, and
Oh,
so do the
in
global.
2008, remember it was those bad
Yeah.
months.
Right.
Okay, with a conservative majority, do you think they're going to put voting rights, gut the Voting Rights Act? When did we have a conservative majority?
Yeah, I don't understand the question, except whoever asked that question might be referring to, was that the bill started by John Lewis, the John Lewis bill, the voting rights bill?
Well, they're saying the conservatives are going to gut the voting rights out a lot. They're going to gut it, but they're
Well, let
saying the
me
conservative majority. There is no
yeah,
conservative.
let me answer the question this way. I think I know why the person's asking. Um, I've always seen for a long time here that a version of the voting rights bill will pass, but it'll get modified. So, for example, they won't allow all the radical gerrymandering that was going on and putting like one, mailbox for votes in one state, and a lot of crazy things like that. So, some of the voting rights, what was the framework for the John Lewis bill, will get passed eventually in a modified form. So that's the answer to that. Yeah.
Okay. So, but right now we do not have a conservative majority. They might be
Correct.
assuming with the voting coming up, but that's a horse of a different color.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, will Gaetz, DeSatan, and Stone go down for Florida crimes?
Again, here I'll put some interpretation on this. Going down, meaning I don't see prison time necessarily, but I do see a lot of court cases, a lot of fines, and I don't see it completely aligned just to Florida. The way that person asked that question, it's aligned to more federal crimes. So yeah.
I just read someone saying that, and it's true, that somebody started a rumor that they weren't going to hurt Gaetz or they weren't going to go after him. And they said the guy that started this totally lied about it because he doesn't know. He would not have that information. So,
Yeah, and I read on that a week or two ago, and what I got was that there are a different set of witnesses that were going to come forward. So it had to do with the quality of witnesses and moving the case forward. So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. My cousin lives in Hawaii. And when we had a video call with my mom, who was in the process of transitioning, talk with her 2-year-old son. Wait, now how could the mom have a 2-year-old son? My cousin lived in Hawaii, and we had a video call with my mom, who was in the process of transitioning, talk with her 2-year-old son. So it must be a
It's one of
grandchild.
yeah, it's one of the other daughters or whatever.
Somebody had
His
a
son.
2-year-old
Yeah,
son.
yeah.
After my mom passed, the baby kept looking at the corner of the ceiling saying, Auntie Renee. The dogs would also look up at the ceiling. What does the child see?
Well, I'm assuming the mother that passed. That's what looks. It sounds like to me. It was the mother that passed. It says she was in the process of transitioning, and I assume that she's a transition. And very common, by the way, for animals and children.
Children.
Remember, up to about the age of 7, everybody's an incredible psychic medium, and then people put it down for a lot of reasons. It just scares them or whatnot. But yeah, though they're observing the mother that passed over.
Mm-hmm. And even the deceased keep looking. My mom used to look. She saw 2 men and they weren't relatives, and she described them down to what they were wearing.
Exactly.
They were in the room. Yep.
Yeah.
Will 45 be in attendance at Tiffany's upcoming wedding?
Yeah, I get he will. I get he will. And I think, I don't know, is that November? I think it's November of this year.
I don't know. I didn't even know.
Is when the wedding is, mid to late mid-November. Yeah, it looks like he will. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did the GOP make a deal with OPEC to cut oil productions to affect the midterms?
Well, for entertainment purposes only, and I've seen this for a long time, but there's a number of Middle East deals that went on between the former administration and the Middle East. And I want to be a little careful here because we don't want anybody dinged on a YouTube video or something. But yeah, there's some backroom deals going on. They're ongoing. And that's one of the levers that's being pulled behind the scenes. It is.
But President Biden has gone around this. He's making deals with outside entities, including Venezuela. And I think he's really going to hit, because I have land with mineral rights and they're not pumping right now. Maybe they'll go back to America and start getting our stuff going.
And that is an additional side of the discussion, is that where's the shortfall going to be made up? And it's absolutely coming out of Latin America, whether it's Venezuela or Brazil or, I mean, the shortfall will be made up. I think the question was, are there backroom deals made with the Middle East and the former administration? I get a solid yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But because there's bartering going back and forth. Remember, it's give and take. So.
Right. But honest to God, when I heard this, I felt like it's only, 3% of us, only 2 or 3% of our, I feel like we're going to make it up. And I almost feel like they'll be sorry they did it, because people will go outside of them and then now they're nothing burger. Mm-hmm. I know it's always about money, but what are the other reasons that Texas sold its largest oil refinery and 25 distribution centers to Saudi Arabia?
Well, it was about money. Yeah. So it was because those companies that were involved, and I probably shouldn't name them on the channel, but they're very well-known oil companies, U.S. oil companies. They answer to their shareholders, and so they got a very good deal on behalf of the shareholders. So yeah, right. It was about money. Yeah.
But I wonder if the United States could say, "Listen, we're in a shortfall. We are claiming that oil from the land of the United States. Saudi Arabia has no right to it as of now until we are able to." I'm almost feeling like something like that could happen.
Yeah, and unfortunately, those things aren't in place right now with private companies being oil companies. So, the government's not coming in and taking control of land, not yet, but that could lead to that. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. I have noticed that Putin's left arm swings as though it's lifeless. Does he have a problem?
I mean, I get he does. He's got some neurological damage going on there based on some cancer running around his system. So there is some neurological damage going on. Yeah.
A psychic in the United Kingdom predicted that William will be the last king. What do you see?
No, but his son George, right? Isn't George his son, right?
Yeah.
It looks to me like George will be the last king, which is interesting. So that
Yeah.
looks like decades and decades out, that'll be where it kind of ends. Now, I said ends for the monarchy. The monarchy is going to take on a different role. So it's
Yeah,
going to be a
I'm
little
almost
different.
feeling
Yeah.
like a token energy.
Mhm, mhm.
Like I even saw tourists being able to go through the castles.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
basically they won't be living in castles anymore.
right.
Okay. So, will the Christian nationalists leave politics soon? Oh, God.
Interesting question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not for many decades. It's not going to be just a few years, but they'll be they'll be around and integral part of Federalist Society and other groups. Yeah, so they're still going to be around for decades.
They really love Jesus and they do as Jesus says.
Yeah.
And talk trash about people and they're better than everyone else. It's so sad. I hope they do wake up. Do you see North and South Korea ever unifying it?
I do, but it's like half a century out. So it's more like 50 years out. But I do eventually see them joining because there are forces in the world like NATO gets extremely strong. Economics of North Korea get to a point where it's completely untenable and they have to strike a deal with, in order to keep the civilization alive and resources. So a number of forces produce that alignment. Yeah.
What do you think about all those missiles going? Is that just bullying or is that for real on something?
That's North Korea trying to raise their hand on the world stage and say, just keep in mind we're a world power.
Okay.
Don't forget about us. Yeah.
It's kind of sad because one of those missiles turn around, nukes turn around and hit them, they're all gone. They're playing with fire.
Yeah, now it looks like the ballistic missiles they're firing don't have a payload, so there isn't any nuclear
good.
payload. It's just the missile transport itself. But yeah, they're still dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. Is China becoming more isolated geopolitically?
Well, my answer to that from my team is that they're still going to maintain a strong alliance with places like Russia and even India. So if you consider that geopolitical alliance, I don't see it changing. However, it does feel like over the next decade, they're going to change the way they work with the world because their economy is going to start to shift. So they're going to have to kind of reestablish.
Now they're in some trouble, right?
Well, right now they're highly leveraged on real estate worldwide, but that'll change. They'll get through that over the next number of years to decade. They will eventually be the world's largest economy. They will. So they're going to dig out of it. I think in about 2 decades, 3 decades, they could be 10 times the size of like the U.S. economy. So
wow. Okay, that sounds interesting. Will Putin be out of power by the end of October?
No.
Yeah, I don't feel that.
No. But as we get towards the end of this year into next year, he's hanging on by his fingernails. So it's coming soon, but not by October. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like the spring of next year.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any real danger to the Norwegian oil fields and fishing grounds from their neighbor Russia?
Lots of threats, but strong NATO alliance prevents anything from happening. So I see, Russia trying to exert its will. Maybe there are a few I would call it catastrophic. I'll call them some sabotage, a little bit of sabotage going on there, but NATO will have a very strong response. So they're going to try, but nothing major in terms of damage. No.
Okay, good. My dog Bingo seems to have a special love for children. What is it that makes him so attracted to kids?
Well, all animals can see the other side. We were just talking about that, and children have a very pure spiritual energy, and so that's a resonance with children being very close to spirit form. Yeah. So
When I picked up Lulu from Oklahoma, Lulu was raised in a family with little
mhm,
kids, and they loved on her terribly. They were very sad when I came to get her. And I took her back to my family in Lawton, Oklahoma before I flew out. And I was at my cousin's house, and they had a couple little boys running around. And Lulu just sprung, was so happy because it was children.
right. Yeah,
You know,
they
sometimes
sense that young energy, that very clean energy, and they resonate with it very well. Yeah, animals are very close to the angelic realm. We talk about it all the time. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Do you see an earthquake in California soon?
Well, gonna have a couple. A couple. It looks like one before the year's out and one into the beginning of next year. I don't think it's going to be over a 7. I think it's going to be high 5s, 6s. It's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Okay. How will SCOTUS decide on the issue of state legislators choosing electors regardless of what voters say? Yeah, what is SCOTUS going to do?
Is this they're referring to like the Roe v. Harper? That
I
I
think
mean,
the one that Thomas has got his fingers on.
it's the Harper case, right? I said Roe v. Harper, whatever is Harper. It looks like I see a couple of stages of legal process there. So it looks like the Supreme Court's going to try to pass down some extra responsibility to the states, but it's almost like in their the dissertation that they provide, they're going to say we're going to hand it over to the states, but here's what the qualifiers. Like it's got to go through this kind of a court process, so it's not going to be a full open ticket to do whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah, because it looks like the Supreme Court's going to try to appease the conservative party and states, but they're not going to give them a free reign to do whatever they want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that
Yeah.
new judge, she was so
Yeah.
eloquent. And the reason that this law, because they're trying to act like this law has nothing to do with any, yeah, it does. It was deliberately done to keep freed slaves to be able to vote because they were trying to block them out. That's the purpose.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, there's no more slaves. So you know how they are. So what do you think? Actually, it's not the one I'm thinking of that Judge Thomas has is Trump's one. Trump is going to Supreme Court saying, get them off my back. They can't.
Oh, this is where he's challenging whether
Yes.
the documents that were seized over there at Mar-a-Lago can be reviewed by the DOJ.
Right.
No, I don't see the Supreme Court siding with Trump. No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I once read that our eyes are the same through each incarnation, and this is how we're able to immediately recognize other souls. Is this true?
No.
No, because
No.
sometimes we're different. Sometimes we're ETs, sometimes we're different tribes.
Yeah, it's interesting question, but
Yeah.
not real. No. Mhm.
Okay, will there ever be a time when medical science finds a way to stop COVID virus from mutating, causing one variant after another?
Well, so the answer is we're going to be able to control the COVID, all the COVID variants very shortly here within a year. We're going to move to an endemic next year. But viruses, again, I'm not a doctor here, but that's part of what they do. They mutate all the time. But if you don't understand or can't control the mutations, develop the right kind of vaccines, and that's the problem. So we won't. I think the question was not going to be able to stop mutation, but understand it better, predict it better, and have like annual flu vaccines for like
that,
COVID
yeah.
variants. So
Exactly.
kind of a multi-layered answer to that question. Yeah.
Right. Is the White House haunted? And if so, by who?
Oh, well, haunted. A lot of presidents still walk the hallways. James Madison. I get Coolidge,
Abraham Lincoln.
Roosevelt, and I don't know why, but a lot of past presidents still walk the hallways just to try to check on things and be around people they love and care about. Yeah.
There is somebody who slept in the Lincoln room that had a knock on the door. It was it wasn't Queen Elizabeth, but it was someone from another nation. And when they opened the door, there was Abraham Lincoln.
I'm not surprised. I was just going to say, I believe Lincoln walks the hallways too. Yeah.
And then somebody did a video when they were reconstructing, the White House has been rebuilt around the White House. So there's
Mhm.
the old White House. A lot of that wood down there is old.
Mhm.
And then there's the new White House. So
Yeah.
someone was taking pictures of the work they were doing below, like in the basement. And you could see a black shadow as clear as day standing there watching them.
Yeah. Lots of spirits around the White House.
Oh, yeah. But you know, of course, they're not going to let people do ghost hunts. Of course, I would love to do a ghost hunt there. The number of people crossing illegally has become a problem. Will the current administration provide an amnesty act?
I see a lot of that coming up in the next term, the next, next administration here, kind of starting after the midterm. So I do see some of that happening. And whenever I've read on this, my team has always said a big component of that was the financing required to support all those bills, right? Now we have the corporate minimum tax of 15%, which we saw for a long time was coming. So now that the funding's in place and then the right administration is there to handle it, so it's coming. I think you're
Now,
going to see
is
big
that
changes
15
next year.
Okay, is that 15% taking place as we speak, or is that next year?
I think it rolls forward starting next year. I've got to go check, but it just got passed. And
Okay,
for a year or two, my team was saying that the corporate minimum tax of 15% would eventually get passed.
okay.
That's corporations
That's
making
going to help a lot.
Yeah, it's corporations making over $1 billion that we're paying zero tax. So it's coming.
Oh, there's some good news too. I just got to tell you, I don't know if you saw it, but Trump had a rally and only 27 people showed. I had to mention that, you guys. You said
I would say that many.
that many. You said you would check with Sterling about whether there will be some kind of supplement, food or treatment that will extend the lives of our pets. Oh yeah, I remember this person wrote me. That was an interesting question. Will there ever be something, a supplement or treatment that'll help extend the lives of our precious pets?
Within 2 years, if not a little faster, there's going to be major advancements in plant-based diets for animals. So the new advancements
Really?
here, yeah, I see new plants coming out of some other part of the world. Looks like they're part of Europe, but there's some plant derivative here that they're going to come up with that is very helpful in the short term. And then longer term, 8 to 10 years, animals will benefit from gene editing as well, CRISPR
Okay.
technology.
All
So,
right.
gene editing works on everything that's living. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think 45 will win appeal to SCOTUS? We just discussed
I
that.
just answered that one. Yeah.
Are all aliens helpful or are some evil?
Was that our some evil?
Or are all aliens helpful or are some evil?
Well, there's hundreds of species of ETs. The majority of them really are here and doing important work on Earth and in the universe. There's a few aggressive species like the reptilians, but they're kept at bay. They're in lower quantities than the other ones like Pleiadians and Arcturans. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say evil, but you
Yeah.
always get a couple of bad apples and yeah.
But I picture when I heard this question, I'm picturing more like scientists that don't have compassion. They just do things because they want to do things. They're not worried about how awful it makes you feel. You know what I'm saying?
If it's related to the extraterrestrials, I mean, there are some groups that would, rather be dominating here on Earth. They would be, but
Well, I'm sure you know about this, but I guess there was some great galaxy war millions of years ago, and it was decided that they would never go to war again. So they really look out. There's actual law enforcement over there that makes sure people mind their own business.
well, there is a Star Federation.
Star Federation.
It's almost like a Congress, like we have here. It was a
Yeah.
Star Federation, and they're highly evolved, though, so they don't. Their first inclination is not to go and blow each other up. That's
you
not,
go.
So
That's why they watch us so closely. They want to make
Mhm.
sure we're not stupid. Okay, can you read on the future of Taylor Swift? She's awfully young.
it's a real range of questions
I
here.
know.
It's interesting for her. Eventually her future is all about really owning a very massive entertainment company for herself.
Wow.
Right now, she's wholly managed by 13 Management, which is her company.
Okay.
But I do see over the years, I'll give you at least a decade here, she'll evolve into helping a lot of artists and then transitioning into getting a lot of world causes around fair treatment of people. So she's going to evolve. Right now, I think she's worth 400 million or $500 million, one of the highest paid artists.
Yeah.
Interesting question, but I do see her evolving with her own entertainment company, helping world causes and helping a lot of artists get fair pay. So I think looks like the transition starts up through Congress about fair pay for artists and then moves beyond that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, I'm too old for Taylor Swift and I don't listen to her music.
Mm-hmm.
But as a person, I have no feeling of negative towards her at all. I feel like she just did a movie that looks pretty interesting. Did you see that movie that's coming out?
No,
It looks like some Robert De Niro's in it, a lot of big names, and Taylor Swift's in it. So I think she's kind of digging acting, but I don't think that's her thing. But yeah. Okay. So what's coming up for next week?
Well, a lot of more of the same. So a lot of help coming, female help coming to Florida, right, to help dig out of all those problems. See a lot more female help coming. A lot of storm activity down in that part of our world. Still a lot of storms. There's something coming up for funding for schools coming up that I was just told. So I don't know whether Biden, put something forward aggressively to get more funding into schools right away before the election here. Something coming up for that.
Well, do you know that big thing that he did? They're really going to work on schools getting air conditioning, and a lot of the schools are really dilapidated and old.
Yeah. My team just said there's some big funding coming up for schools on behalf of Biden. So have not seen that, but usually they get advance notice, my team. Also, aggressively on the vaccines rolling out, the bivalent vaccine right now for a lot of people that need that for the booster. And then we have also, the January 6th committee is coming up. So
yes, what are you feeling about that? That's Thursday.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be, I'll call it the capstone on everything. So it'll cap off everything very nicely in terms of putting together a coherent picture. And we're going to see more of the way some of the affiliations with the Supreme Court were somehow involved. So the more of this is going to come out. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting.
Do you feel any shock and awe or a little surprise or a little something, something?
I feel more of the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of feeling.
That's okay though. That's okay because you have to, it's like completing the novel. These are the last couple of chapters in the complete novel, and it puts together a very coherent picture of what happened. Yeah.
Right. Can I just tell you something real quick before?
By the way, I was just going to tell you, I think it's been proven that what happened on January 6th, those weren't tourists.
No, no, absolutely not. Yeah. But it's a shame that we're all looking through the same eyes, and other people are like, "Oh no, it was no big deal," and that they still believe in the rigging and stuff. But what I wanted to ask you was, my dear friend who gave me the list that I'm going to work on for governors and senators. She said the word is inside is that Stacey Abrams will lose. I felt like she was going to win.
We're talking now, or the House and the Senate. We're talking about the Democrats. So
who's running? She's running for governor of Georgia, and she's saying right now, word is because she's backed by 6 points or something, that she would actually lose Georgia. Do you feel yes, she'll lose?
Well, let me answer the broader question first. My team has always said that the Democrats are going to still take the House and the Senate.
Yes.
Now it's not going to be a landslide. It's a playground fight to the death. What I mean, for every last vote. But what pollsters aren't seeing is there's a big underswell of a lot of people that don't normally vote.
That's what I was feeling.
All the different groups that don't normally vote are coming out in masses. And that's gonna make a big difference. It will. So
like ants. I like ants. That's what my guy said to me. My team. They said they'll come out like ants, Linda. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, this doom and gloom of how they're acting like it's so close. I'm almost feeling I don't listen to it because my guide said, yeah, they want you to worry or think that they can take over. Like McCarthy, as soon as we take over, we're going to start impeaching everybody. And I thought, dude, you're not going to
Yeah.
be Speaker of the House.
Yeah. That's true.
Okay, last but not least, do you guys have a message?
I do. For this week, it's a simple one, but it's share your joy as well as your grief, because it's important for you to share the joyous times in your life as well as how you move through the grief in your life and how you handled it. So that speaks to balance in life and sharing kind of both sides of the coin with those around you, because it enriches their life. So
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, my friend. It's as usual. I've missed you. I haven't seen you.
yeah, I missed you too. Yeah. So
Thank you.
it's all good to get back together again. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you guys will be back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And also, I was just going to mention, if anybody needs to reach me, we already mentioned I have a YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium. And if they need to reach me for a session, it's just sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Look for the book a session tab. It's all
Right,
easy.
and you guys know that I'm no longer doing paid readings. I'm off the chart now. All
Mhm.
right, you guys,
All right.
take
Take
care.
care.
Cheers.